And we're live here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. I have Sandra Lee with me, and she is an energetic initiator. I met her through Melinda, who's also interviewed with us, and I'm excited to learn more about Sandra and all she has to do and all her coaching and things that she experiences. And this is going to be fun. So, Sandra, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. I think this interviewing 100 people is a really great thing to be doing. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
get get get
it's
get the word out there, spread, get known, get practiced, because by the end you're going to be really good at doing interviews.
Yeah, and but the best part is people get good at sharing and telling their story and I get to help them do that. So that's what I love about it. Sandra, why don't we start by just sharing who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
I help people who have things they need to do, but they're not doing them. They get stuck and they stop themselves, recognizing that what it is that stops them is all of this stuff inside their head, their thoughts, their beliefs, their emotions, and that's all based on the past. And so healing stuff from the past that creates those limiting beliefs and all those ways in which people aren't moving forward with their goals, the things that they really want, and so that they can be more successful in being themselves. This also really has a huge impact on our relationships. So it's like, Derek, do you have any relationships where sometimes it's like a little bit difficult? Those are also all things that we can work with here. And so helping people find freedom in their lives and being themselves.
Yeah, and relationships are probably one of the most important things, right? Because we get everything from other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, thinking about my personal relationships, my family, my spouse, any children, friendships, and then if anybody has a business, it's completely dependent on relationships.
Yeah.
So, yeah, relationships are just central to everything.
Yeah, that's really cool. How did you get into doing this?
I have been doing healing work for over 30 years. Started out doing hands on and body work and stuff. And the answer that comes up to say about the question is that when I started working with people, their bodies started talking to me. So, Derek, if your soul, if your body, your beingness has things it wants you to know, you might be too close to be able to get those messages yourself. I call it not being able to read the label on my box. And so people, their souls just started giving me information and I would tell them. And that's how I started doing this intuitive work, helping people see, like, if my neck and shoulders are painful or tight, what are the issues that are there? So it's like I relate that to from lots and lots of people that I've worked with. It's like I have too much responsibility, too much pressure, too much I'm trying to carry, too much I'm trying to do, this yoke of responsibility. And when I tell that to people, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. So when did you have this, okay, realization that you're intuitive, or would you call it empathic, or how would you what would you say that's called?
I would say, yeah, it's empathic. And it just started happening.
Okay.
So I would be doing hands on work, which is what I
Nice.
started doing, hands on work. And I would just start getting information.
Mm.
So it's like I'm working with somebody who I've known for a long time and they have the same symptoms in their body that they've had for years. And I know a lot about their life because we've talked. And I started working on someplace, and then I was like, oh, this is related to that issue in your life, in your relationships, that stress, that pressure. And so I started vocalizing it, saying, it's like, hey, it feels like this is what's stored here. And I find that when I take something that's come into my mind, they haven't told me, and I say something about it, the energy in that place moves.
Mm.
So the vocalization of it changes something. If somebody is stuck and the energy in their body or in their field is not moving, it's blocked in an area. A common area where people get blocked is around the throat, for example. If they're not able to express themselves,
Sure.
then the energy here can get all stuck. And when I point that out, oh, you have somebody you really need to talk to, and you're not having that conversation. It's like their beingness hears it. It's like, oh, somebody's finally listening, and the energy moves. So by observing the changes in the energy blocks and the energy flow, that's how I can see that, oh, there's something related, relevant about what I just said, and helping the person consciously be aware of something that they've not been consciously paying attention to enables them to then be able to do something about it. I like empowering people to be able to help themselves.
Wow. That's amazing. It's really, really powerful. Yeah, that's I'm sure just the awareness and also I would think feeling heard or seen.
Oh, yes, so much so. It Everyone has this foundational, fundamental desire, need to be seen. And I think this originates at birth.
Hmm.
So I call it the foundational separation wound, because you go from being inside your mother and everything is easy. You get everything you need without having to ask for it. You don't have to make any noise. It's comfortable. And then in a very short period of time, you go through a really intense period, and then you're out, and you're cold, and it's bright, and it's loud, and you're separated. For the first time in your life, you're separated. And you used to be completely one with your mother, and then you go to this separation. It's shocking. And that's what contributes to what I think of as a pretty universal human experience of being separate, alone, and not being seen and heard. You go from having all of your needs met instantaneously without having to ask, and then suddenly you have to cry to get any attention at all, and nobody understands you. You don't get what you need right away. And so it creates this fracture at the very beginning of life. And I think this is just part of being human. I'm really interested to see, as our child raising practices shift over time, how parents, mothers who are more conscious and energetically aware have children, and they eliminate as much as possible that experience of separation. What's going to be possible with those children? So it's like children, some babies now are being born in the water, so it's not that shocking transition. And then there isn't a separation.
Mhm.
No, they're not inside anymore, but the mother is holding them immediately. So I will be really interested to see how more and more of these children grow up. Are they going to have less of this separation wound experience?
Yeah, I never really thought of it like that before, but the first thing we do is cry when we need attention or need something. So we're taught from the moment we're born that the best way to get attention or love is to cry and kind of whine about it,
It's the
right?
only way.
Yeah.
It's the only way. And, it's like when the baby cries, the mother does not instinctively understand.
Yeah.
The parents might not know what is the message here until they figure it out over time. And so there's this period during which the child goes from being inside and having their needs met absolutely instantaneously to no longer instantaneous. And then there's this communication glitch that happens. And so understandably, they panic. They have this fear. And there's another thing that I started seeing while doing body work with people, that this is a very common area where people have a block.
Yeah.
And I related it to this early birth, early childhood time. Think about the first time the mother says to the baby, "Oh, be quiet, stop crying." When babies are crying and loud, it's very distressing to the mother. She wants the baby to be happy. And when the baby is crying and she can't do anything about it, understandably, she's, oh, just stop crying, quash. And then she might get upset and start being a little bit louder and start yelling and start getting upset. And this creates trauma inside the baby. Not that the mother's doing anything wrong, but it's just natural that this little bit of conflict starts coming in here. And the baby, in order to survive, the mother's love, the parents' love, and being loved and cared for and held and protected is survival. And so the baby does whatever the baby can to keep that. And if the mother is asking the baby to stop crying, the baby's going to suppress their self-expression. A baby pops out of the womb and they are just like 100% being every second. And as soon as you tell that baby to stop crying, they say, oh, I can't. And they physically restrain it. So often I see this here as the baby learning to physically, with their musculature, tighten down and clamp down on their self-expression. And then this continues throughout life. All of the times where you get told to be quiet, nobody's listening to you, stop making so much noise, all of these things reinforce this blocked self-expression. And so is there any wonder we get to adulthood and we don't feel like we're seen and we're heard? Nobody's listening. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Such common things that entrepreneurs, for example, deal with. Nobody wants
Oh, your
what I
video
have
just
to
went out.
say. I don't know why
Okay.
it just kind of disappears like that.
Okay.
I might take away from that nobody wants to see me. I don't, but
Interesting.
but these things are part of this foundational experience that all humans have. And so that's why it comes up over and over and over again in healing work. This healing the experience of being separated and not being seen. So I love doing things that give people that experience. It's like, oh, you see me. You see who I am. And it fills this hole, starts to provide that need that didn't get met.
Wow. Really profound. And it really explained really well. I really appreciate that. We were talking a little bit about the anger spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share more about that with everyone?
You want a little bit more of my history around anger?
Yeah, let's
And
do that.
it leads to this. Okay. So I get angry at all sorts of things, big things, little things. And I used to be angry for weeks at a time. In my marriage with my ex-husband, it was really bad. And anger would just like be this ongoing thing.
Hmm.
And I used to really beat myself up about it. Why do I do this? Nobody else does this super intense anger thing. And I used to really like scold myself. What is wrong with me? And then I listened to my human design teacher talking about human design for the first time. And I learned that anger is normal for me. I'm supposed to be angry. I was like, what? Like, there's nothing wrong with me? And I learned that I'm supposed to be this way. I can't turn it off. I didn't do anything wrong and nobody else did anything wrong. And it's not going away ever. And that it's actually a good thing. That's when I realized that there's a purpose for anger. If we didn't get angry, nothing would ever change, right? Look at all of the injustices going on in the world. We need people who have the ability to appropriately have their upset level rise so that someone takes action to do things that need to be done. It's so important. So when I learned this about anger being normal for me, I learned to manage it entirely differently. Now, anger comes up, and it's like, oh, there that is. I'm really familiar with it. It still happens all of the time. But I no longer get stuck there. Because it's like, okay, so what do I need here? What am I upset about? do I need to communicate? And then I walk through whatever I need to walk through, and then the anger is gone. I don't do this like weeks at a time thing anymore. Anger is a much shorter, less intense experience.
Hmm.
And if we think about our cultural experiences of anger, there's so many people who have blocks to being able to express anger themselves and blocks associated with having had family members who got like explosive, harmful rage. That's the experience that people have in early life associated with anger. One or both of those experiences, leading to anger being this thing where everybody gets really stuck, not allowed to express anger. There's something wrong. And if it is, sometimes people get cause damage with their anger. And I realized that by becoming an expert about anger myself, that something else is possible. What is it that leads to that trauma experience with anger? One is those childhood experiences. If I'm yelled at when I get angry, I was like, oh, that's not okay. Can't do that. Stuff it. When somebody else gets angry, and I was like, oh, that is dangerous. That is life threatening. I can't do that either. Stuff it. Okay? Anytime I take an emotion that I experience and I'm not able to feel it, I'm not able to express about it, not able to ask for what I need about it, it's an incomplete, unfinished experience. And it gets stuffed. For survival, it gets stuffed. The unconscious mind, to protect you, to keep you alive, has to do that. So your unconscious mind is doing its job. And so you have decades of stuffing and stuffing and stuffing that occurs. And then what happens? Somebody says something, it triggers it, and poof, I call it kindling, right?
Mm.
I have all of this unfinished, unresolved emotional experience that I have stuffed inside for survival, and something happens, triggers it, and I blow up. And it's out of proportion to what actually happened. Somebody just said something normal, like, you did that wrong. And I get all defensive and angry and upset because there's all this kindling. There's my whole lifetime of unresolved stuff sitting there waiting to get set off. So I created the anger spectrum concept because I want to reframe our experience of anger. Turn it from this, oh, can't experience that, there's something wrong with that, to it's normal. And I call the anger spectrum the full spectrum of emotions. All of the uncomfortable, awkward emotions that we have. I'm unhappy, I'm sad, I'm grieving, I'm worried. Are they going to like me? Nobody wants to hear me. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how. All of those are uncomfortable emotions. Does that make sense, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I don't allow myself to feel any of them and to get my needs met around any of them, there's part of it gets stuffed. So that there's this buildup of kindling that occurs. If we look at this spectrum of emotions as all being normal and allow ourselves to, okay, what is it I'm feeling? It used to be when you asked me how I felt, I didn't know because it wasn't safe to express emotions. Again, a common experience that people have in childhood. It's not safe to express your emotions and ask for what you need. So I learned to stuff it all, leading to people literally not knowing what they feel. And so learning to be able to do it, developing the vocabulary, the experience of, oh, somebody actually cares how I feel, wants to hear from me. So what do I feel? And it just takes practice and loving and compassion and somebody actually listening so that I learn how to express my emotions. Literally, when I was younger, you ask me how I feel, you ask me how I want, I don't have an answer. I just get confused and like escape. That's what I used to do. And none of that works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're,
So,
no, so go ahead. I was gonna say,
yeah,
I think, it's just common practice, how are you doing? And then we say we're fine, we're good. And but we don't really think about how we actually feel.
yes. And I think part of that is that we have the experience that there isn't anybody who's actually listening. There isn't anybody who actually cares.
Mm.
And so, it's self healing, self care, learning how do I be my full self so that I'm no longer stuffing, I'm no longer building a pile of kindling. I can be in the moment, like, who am I right now? What's right for me right now? This experience of stuffing the uncomfortable emotions also leads to difficulty in making decisions because I don't know what I want or I don't feel like I can have what I want. Such common experience, as a healer for over 30 years, a very common experience is people don't know what they want or they don't feel like they can have what they want, which of course all parallels that childhood experience.
Right.
So you've heard of, parenting yourself, learning to take care of that child self that comes up. And so, working with this anger spectrum, again, normalizing these emotions and giving people access to being able to heal them in the moment. And then healing the stuff from the past so that there's not that pile of kindling there to set off.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I had this whole awareness as you're telling that, you know, you're stuffing this anger is pretty much trauma. So we're creating our own trauma in our life.
Yes. Well, and what we're doing is we're reinforcing the old trauma.
Yeah.
So it's like think about like I said, the baby from very early life starts suppressing their self-expression. And this gets repeated over and over and over and over and over again. So at first it's like, oh, I can't cry. And then it becomes, I can't ask for what I want. Nobody's listening to me. I can't be the person I want to be. I can't make the contribution I want to make in the world. And so you get the adult emotions that a lot of people deal with when they get to here, but it's all on that foundation of that separation when it began at the beginning. And I believe if you don't actually heal that separation, it's really hard to be happy and effective
Mm.
and successful now. Because I feel like nobody's listening to me. I don't have anything. It's like, I don't matter. I want to be invisible. Get me out here.
Yeah. Wow. This is great, great stuff, Sandra. So if I have this awareness that I'm stuck in my anger, what would be my first step? What should I do?
The first thing is to pause. Because so often I get stuck in this place. How I have all of these analogies that I use to describe this, right? Something happens and I jump in a rut and then I'm down the track.
Yeah.
That's an automatic response. Every time this happens and I'm down the track. And if that's happening for you, like somebody says something that's critical, whoop, I shut down. Can be an automatic response. Okay. The first thing to do is to, oh, wait a minute, what's happening? Pause. And if possible, don't jump into the track. Don't, I might have the initial reaction, but it's like, whoa, 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 I don't want to do that. I'm trying to change this pattern, right? That's the first step. Okay. So it's like pausing and breathing. It's like, if possible, keep myself from having that automatic reaction, that automatic response. And you may or may not be successful in doing that because it takes practice. So it's like there are interactions that tend to get inflamed really easily. This happens a lot with family members, right? Where there's a lot of ongoing conflict. The fuse can get really short. Does that make sense, Derek?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? There's certain people who you tend to get a little more easily. So it can be harder to stop the reaction. And
Mhm.
so then I have people, if they have a hard time stopping the reaction in the moment, because it takes real practice to be able to stop it in the moment.
Yeah.
to be able to, after it's all done, and it's like, and you're back at home or you're sitting in your car and it's like, oh, look at that experience, what happened with that person. It's like, I did it again. Okay, but I didn't react as much. So to debrief, basically, after the fact, okay, I had this intention to not get upset when this person says this thing. And I did react. But we didn't get into a fight, so it's better. Okay, so next time I'm going to set an intention. Next time, okay, I'm going to pause and breathe and see if I can back out and not react as much. Right? So it's just practice. Every time you do it, you have the opportunity to get a little bit better, get a little bit easier, and then eventually that person says that thing and you don't jump in the rut. And you completely stop that whole downhill track of reaction. So you've taken control of it, basically.
Yeah. Wow. Sandra, thank you for doing this. I don't want to take too much of your time today. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you'd like to share?
I like telling people that you have a purpose that is special and unique. And you are giving your purpose, giving your unique gift 24/7, no matter what you are doing. Even if you're taking out the garbage, you are still living your purpose and making your contribution. So you always matter.
Love that. Love that. How do we get a hold of you and find you if we want to connect with you?
My website is miracleinspirations.com, but the easiest way is to get the Happy and Harmonious Relationships worksheet, and they can go to shinewithsandra.com/happy.
Awesome. So I'm going to have you put those links in the comments here, and that way people can find you if they like you and they want to connect with you. I think this has been really good stuff. Um, Thank you again for doing this. And yeah, we're looking forward to your comments and seeing your links. And if you're watching this and you like what Sandra had to say and you want to learn more about the anger spectrum and you want to get her worksheet, definitely check out those comments so you can click on her links. And if you have any questions for her, I'm sure she'll answer them. And we really appreciate that you're doing this, Sandra. And thank you everyone for watching. If you want to be spotlighted here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive, comment interview, and we'll spotlight you. We'll let you share your gifts. Or if you're struggling, we can get you the support you need. So thank you, Sandra. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, Derek. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun. All
It
right.
is fun.